this kind of gathering, and we mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we learn about the Quran, learn about the deen. The angels come and settle around the people in attendance. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as they come and they actually spread their wings, they're from angel to angel, you can think of it around us, and they listen and they take attendance and they make dua for the people that are there, and they go up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they tell him, we have seen these people gathered in this place to, mention you and remember you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds that I want you to witness that I have forgiven them. I've increased the rewards, right? And the last thing I'll just say is that these masajid, inshallah, one time we'll talk about Surah An-Nur, the particular ayah in Surah An-Nur, the masajid that we come and sit in. في بيوت الموضوع طبعا بس عايز حاجه معينه. So if you think of work with me on this example. We are living on earth, yes, and we say, where is Allah? Where do we point? Where's Allah? Point up. Point up. Always point up. Where's Allah? We point up. So where are the angels? Also up. Okay. So if you take the flip of this example, the angels are looking at the earth. What is the guiding light for the angels on earth? The masajid. Because the masajid are minarets of light. You understand? The masajid are minarets of light. So the masajid on the earth, these type of halaq where we're sitting and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're guiding lights that the angels look at for their own, traversing of Allah. So, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, we were on Surah Yusuf, and we got to the point where the king has a dream, and he asks the people around him to interpret the dream, and they cannot interpret the dream, right? The kings at the time, just like today, not only had advisors, but they also had magicians, right? Like a pharaoh, they had magicians as part of their council. What was another really popular thing at the time, besides magicians, ministers, businessmen? They also had this notion, I don't know the English word, kahana. You know what is a kahana? It's like a soothsayer. The soothsayers that can tell you the future. They had them as part of that. So he brings all of them, they don't know the answer. And finally, the one of the two survivors, he says, hey, I know a man in prison. I know someone sent me to him, and he goes to the prison. He gets permission to go ask Yusuf alayhi salam about this dream of the king. And Yusuf alayhi salam not just interprets the dream, but he also tells them the solution to the drought. Right? He basically says that the country is heading into a drought. I'm going to he sets up a 15-year plan for them. He says in the first 7 years, you're actively planting and actively, making sure the ground is fertile. You're collecting all the seeds. You're eating a little bit. You're saving, you're saving the rest. And then in the next 7 years, when the drought starts, part of the plan is you start to take from, the warehouses that you've stored the extras in. So there's now going to be, a type of, a limit, right? And then you're going to take the extra from the warehouses to feed the people. And then on the 15th year, what's going to happen? You also feed Nestle, right? So on that year, in the 15th year, the rain will come down, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses two words, on the tongue of Yusuf, that yulaf means what in Arabic? Yulaf comes from the ghaith. Ghaith means who speaks Arabic? غيث يعني المطر. مطر غزير. Keep your hand down, don't be shy. Matar. You know what matar means in Arabic? What does matar mean? Rain. So ghayth doesn't mean matar. Ghayth has a more precise meaning. This is the beauty of the Quran and the beauty of the Arabic language. It is rain, but what kind of rain is it? It's the perfect rain. It's the perfect rain. So you can have matar, like for example, they have in Vancouver now, which does what? Causes mudslides, and the houses sink, and the rivers overflow. You understand? This is matar, it's rain. But you can also have, if you're a farmer, the kind of perfect rain that is not too hard and not too soft, just perfect for the seeds to germinate. Just perfect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the way, uses this words in multiple parts of the Quran. You know, in Surah Al-Hadid, for example, right, the top of the third page, right, and Allah subhanahu describes this word غيث, كَمَثَلِ غَيْثٍ أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَّارَ نَبَاتُهُ. What does that mean? It's like the farmer that's waiting for the perfect rain, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it descend. Right? It's just perfect for the ground. So on the 15th year, you have now this rain that is beautiful, the crops start to germinate, and then he uses this other word, يَعْصِرُونَ. What is يَعْصِرُونَ? يَعْصِرُونَ means to squeeze. What are they squeezing? They're squeezing the grapes. They're squeezing the fruits. And it's a luxury item. Remember, we talked about that last time. This is not an item that you normally produce if you have a famine. When a country can't eat, their number one priority is not getting chocolate. Their number one priority is making sure that people have the basics of food. You know, you want some protein, you want some carbs, you want some veggies, right? You're not going to say, I need to have a Toblerone chocolate for every citizen. You understand? This is a similar type of situation. So the fact that he says, فِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ means it becomes plentiful one more time, right? So now the king hears this from his, from the guy in the palace, and he says, bring him to me. Bring him to me. And when he goes back, the messenger to Yusuf alayhi in prison, does Yusuf alayhi go out? He does not go out. What does he say? He says, go back to your master and ask him about the women. Ask him about the women that did what? Cut their heads. Meaning, go back to your police chief. Your police chief will look at the records. Oh, look, what happened to this guy? Oh, his name is Yusuf. He was in prison now for 10 years. Oh, let me see. Why did he go to prison? Open up the legal. So, oh, look, these women apparently accused him of something. Get me the women. You understand? So now the king, the next scene that you see is the king is in front of the women, and he says, "Ma khabbukunna idh rawattunna Yusuf an nafsi." What did you do? What did you do when you tried to, accuse him of something that he did not do? You accused him. And the women say, remember, how many women are there? Do we know? Do we know the actual? We don't know. But more than one, yes? Okay, more than one. Because some were at the party and one was definitely the wife of the Aziz. So more than one. Right? Okay. So a group of them say, we don't know anything about him. That's bad. We don't know anything about him. That's bad. And the wife of the Aziz now steps up and she says, I am the one that actually tried to do these things, and he is honest. He didn't do anything, right? He didn't respond. By the way, these ayat, ayah number 52, ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين. So this is the response. From this we should know that I did not betray him in his absence, for Allah certainly does not guide those that are scheming. The following ayah says, وما أبرئ نفسي إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي إن ربي غفور رحيم. So she said, one of the tafsirs is, this is the wife of the Aziz, and this is the one that I personally prefer. That this is still the conversation of the wife of the Aziz. So in the first one she says, so that it is said that at the time she was much younger than her husband had passed away, but after this particular incident he still looked at her with accusation. So she says, so that he knows that I never ever did anything wrong. I never committed an incorrect act. Right? And then the second ayah, which is ayah number 54 or ayah number 53, she says, and I do not seek to free myself from blame. Indeed, the soul is ever inclined to evil. So she says, I am at fault for this. So it's a form of tawbah. It's a form of her returning, or a form of her repenting. We also see this in the Quran and other places. Right? Which place, for example, very famous in the Quran, where someone after a particular destruction, they turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The people of the two gardens, the man of the man of the two gardens, right? In Surah Al-Kahf. Right? Where's another event? Surah Noon. Remember the boys that after their father passed away, he had a farm. He used to give a third of it to the poor people every time the production came out. And what did they do after the father died? They said, we're not going to give anything more to the poor people. And in both situations, you have destruction. But after the destruction, you have an immediate tawbah. You have an immediate tawbah in Surah Al-Kahf and in Surah Al-Kahf. So this is somewhat similar. The woman actually has a sense of regret, and you can see that she turns back, she turns to Allah. Now, for the completeness of the understanding, many of the Mufassirin said that's actually not the Marat al-Aziz. It's actually whom? It's Yusuf al-Tabari specifically. He says that these words are not uttered by the wife of the Aziz, these words are uttered by Yusuf alayhi salam. Meaning that he's saying in the first case, I did not betray my master when I was in his house. He was so kind to me, I didn't betray him at all. Right? The third description, does anyone know what the third tafsir is? This is the least, favored tafsir, right? But like if you look at the statistical distribution, 95% it's either the wife of Aziz or Yusuf alayhi salam. As I said, my particular opinion is it's the wife of the Aziz. And then the very third description is it's Aziz himself. It's Aziz himself saying, the minister himself saying, yes, I sent him to prison and he was innocent of everything that he was sent to prison for. That's the least likely tafsir, but you will see, if you're reading the tafsir, you will see those. So, and then we talked about this notion of inna an-nafsa la'ammaratun bis-su'. And we talked about three types of nafs, right? And what are they? Does anyone remember? Three types of nafs. النفس اللوامة, النفس المطمئنة, النفس الأمارة بالسوء. Right. So these are the three categories of nafs. Three categories of nafs. النفس المطمئنة is the one that is always relaxed with the mentioning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? النفس الأمارة بالسوء is the opposite. Right? One's extremely good, one's extremely bad. أمارة بالسوء means constantly doing evil, no kind of moral compass to right or wrong. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Everything haram, it does. And then the one in the middle is النفس اللوامة. What is النفس اللوامة? Self-reproaching nafs, which means a nafs that makes mistakes, but after that, what does it do? It recovers. It goes, I made a mistake, I'm going to make tawbah. I made a mistake, I'm going to make istighfar. It makes mistakes, and then it comes back and it recovers. And the bulk of the Muslims are actually sitting in that category of nafs al-lawwama, right? So there's two types of the opinions from the scholars in this. Not getting too deep, but one is that these nafs are absolute. One opinion is that these nafs are absolute. You're one or two or three. The other one that's more likely is that one goes, they traverse from one side to the other to the other. So they're not always in one or the other or the other. They have a circular path, a circular cycle, right? Now we also talked about this notion relevant to this ayah of fitrah. What is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about fitrah?
Every child that is born is on the fitrah.
MashaAllah. Every child that is born, every human that is created is born on the fitrah. And what is the fitrah? Islam. The fitrah is Islam. There is no fitrah that says that 1 in 3 and 3 in 1, or the Hindu concept of 50, or the concept of there's no God. This is not fitrah. This is not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the human being. Not at all, right? Okay. So now what happens is the king says, bring him to me. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي, means exclusively for my service. فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ قَالَ إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. I think this is where we closed last time. And now the king effectively wants to give him a job on the cabinet. The king wants to give Yusuf alayhi salam a job on the cabinet. And remember I said this, what is Makeen and Amin? Makeen is honorable, Amin is trustworthy. And you will also know that, I think I answered this last time, some people may be in a position where they're trustworthy, but they don't have authority. Some people may have authority, but are not trustworthy. But the king gives him, he says, you're going to have both. You're going to have authority, and I'm going to trust you to use that authority for the good of the country. Okay. So we derive a couple of different meanings from this. The first meaning is the permission for a Muslim to serve on a non-Muslim government. A Muslim can serve on a non-Muslim government. So when people here, for example, in the US, they run for elections. If people in Europe run for elections, 100% halal, 100% support them. The fact that the government is non-Muslim doesn't mean we can't participate. It doesn't mean we're going to be in support of what the government does that is evil, or policies that are against it. It doesn't mean that. It means we're trying to participate in the government to steer in the right direction, to have our own influence and say in how laws are being made, for example, and making sure that there's benefit for the Muslim community from the things that are being done. So it is permissible, in fact, desirable for Muslims to participate in a non-Muslim government where they can have this kind of influence.
But you're not supposed to follow the Sharia of anybody else, the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
You're not supposed to follow the Sharia.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never did anything like this.
Well, this is Yusuf alayhi salam an example.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, but this is an example in the Quran of actually the permission.
It's an example of Fir'aun also. There's a lot of examples in the Quran, but the Quran is many stories from the previous prophets. Okay, but the Sharia, the Sharia, whether it is halal or haram.
So let me ask you a question.
Participating in kufr or not?
Yeah.
This is Sharia.
Which Muslim?
Sharia Muhammad.
Okay, I come from Egypt. Should an Egyptian participate in the Egyptian government? The Egyptian government doesn't use Sharia predominantly. It has some laws of Sharia, but many of the Egyptian laws today are actually inherited from the French, from the invasion of the French. So what should you do? You should participate in the government and try to change it to Sharia perspective. Even those that claim Sharia in Saudi, they don't truly implement Sharia. There's still multiple preferences within the societal elements of it. So the whole perspective of this is actually a bigger thing in Islam, right? The bigger thing in Islam is we should use our influence, irrespective of what it is, whether it's a government influence, a head of a company, an owner of a business, to apply the laws of Islam as much as we can.
This is not what Muhammad did.
Yeah. Okay.
He didn't participate in kufr.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going. So Yusuf alayhi salam in this particular ayah number 55, he says, "Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard inni hafidhun alim." He proposed to the king. He says, put me in charge of the ministry. Put me in charge of the ministry of food, effectively the economy. I will be a knowing guardian. I will be a knowing guardian, right? Meaning I will be able to help you distribute the food to the people, make it successful, etc., right? And so the other meaning, by the way, is that he's trying to truly serve the community and truly serve the society for something that is better. The following ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the following, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا. So you know how I was saying the Quran has, the story is ongoing, the dialogue is ongoing, and then the camera bubbles up, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives commentary on what's happening. So this is such an ayah of commentary, right, relevant to the story. Ayah number 56. This is how we established Yusuf in the land. So remember how when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He comments on this, here He says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا يُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. In this way, we established Yusuf in the land. Meaning what? We gave him power and authority over the land. Where in the surah was this ayah used in a similar way? وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا يُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. What is يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا? He can have anything he please, settle wherever he wants. He can buy a 5,000 square foot mansion with 20 cars. He can have a massive bank account. This is literally what it means. We shower our mercy on whomever we will, and we never discount the reward of the righteous. We never discount the reward of the righteous. Where was this ayah used earlier in the surah? It was used in the surah after he was sold into slavery. It was used after he was sold into slavery. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, this is the commentary at that time, He was saying, even though he was sold into slavery, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a bigger plan, which is to give him tamkeen of the land. So he sets us up at the beginning. He's like, no, I know things look bad. Don't worry. It's really going to improve for him. And years later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to the first one and says, this is how we made things improve for him. He gets this high position in the cabinet where he now can do anything he wants, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the following. He says, نُصِيبُ بِرَحْمَتِنَا مَنْ نَشَاءُ وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we shower our mercy on whomever we will, and we never discount the reward of the righteous. We never discount the reward of the righteous. So what just happened? Just describe to me his situation. What just happened to Yusuf alayhi salam? He came from the worst possible place on earth. This prison that was outside of the city, that was disgusting, and lived in it for years and so on and so forth. And he just came to now have an amazing position within the seat of the government. He can have anything he wants in the position of the government. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a little hint at the end. What does he say about this hint at the end? نصيب برحمتنا. No, يعني ايه نصيب? What is نصيب in Arabic? والذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. What is نصيب in Arabic? No, نصيب? No, نصيب is not difficult.
Nasiib in Urdu is nasiib, like you bestow something on somebody.
Yes, it's very close to this. نصيب and musiba actually means something that was going to hit you 100% and it lands on your head in the exact way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended it. This is musib. This is nasib. And actually in Egypt we even say the nasib. Like, who did he marry? Oh, he didn't marry. Oh, really? He married his cousin? It's like, it's his nasib, right? But this is the meaning, the Quranic meaning of it, the actual precise meaning of it is, it lands exactly the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for it to land. Decreed for it to land. So when we say, and in the first case, they say, when something negative happens to you that lands on your head, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, listen, don't think about it in the way of, if I had done this, then I would have not done this. Like, for example, I think I may have given this example before. Someone in the US had a business and the business went bad. As an outcome of the business going bad, his wife wasn't so good with him, his wife leaves him. As an outcome of his wife leaving him, his wife was the reason to have his green card. He now no longer has a green card, he has to leave the country. And follow that example? He can't sit there and go, if I hadn't started the business, then this wouldn't have happened. If I hadn't married this woman, then this wouldn't have happened. If I had this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, this is your musibah. It's meant to land exactly the way it landed. It's meant to land exactly the way it landed. Don't sit there and go, if I had, no. This is the concept of musib. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is telling us that this is the result of ihsan. At the end he said, muhsineen. What is muhsineen? The people of ihsan. What are the people of ihsan?
These are people, when they're in the state of ihsan, it's as if you're praying. Where Allah Ta'ala is seeing you.
That's right. Exactly. So this is the excellent definition of Hadith Jibreel, which is to worship Allah as if you say this, you don't say, how do I apply this at work?
In terms of muamalat, ihsan is like when somebody is doing bad with you, you're doing better.
MashaAllah, that's perfect. Ihsan is about excellence. Excellence, like if you're scoring yourself, if here's a B, here's a C, here's an A, here's an A+, here's an A++, ihsan is the A++ level. Yusuf had ihsan. When the man came to him in the prison, he could have said, get me out of prison. The Prophet ﷺ actually says this. The Prophet has a hadith, ﷺ, he says, may Allah have mercy on my brother Yusuf. If they had come to me after years in prison, and the king's messenger, I would have left the prison. But Yusuf says, no, I'm not going to leave until you prove me innocent first. I didn't do anything to be here. I want to come out with a clean reputation. When he answers the result of what the king is saying, he doesn't sit there and lay conditions and say, pay me, or give me a position, or I'm not going to answer your question. He doesn't say that, right? He gives them, not only does he interpret the dream, he gives them the answer to the dream. Okay. So then, this ayah number 57, وَلَأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. And so when we're listening to the story and we're observing it and watching it like a movie, we now see Yusuf ﷺ get transported from this dirty, dark, evil prison to now being, a minister, probably the second most important guy to the king, with all this possession. We say, mashallah. Like, you understand our perspective. Mashallah, this is amazing. Look at that. Yesterday, today he has a Mercedes-Benz S500. He has all, you understand our point of view as we're looking at this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us gently. He says what? He says, but the reward of akhirah is much better. He says the reward of akhirah is much better. Like, yes, this is a fantastic scene. It's a great transformation. But don't forget that the real reward is where? It's in akhirah, right? Now the ulama here have come to an amazing conclusion with this particular ayah. In fact, the last two ayah. What do you think that is? This is now the bonus points question. The ulama came to an amazing conclusion about I'll give you the hint, about the rewards of a believer. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards a believer.
Like, Allah Ta'ala gives them the good in this world, but He holds on the best part of it, which He will give them in the akhirah.
That's the perfect answer. Everyone here? What's your name?
Hamza.
Hamza. Did everyone hear what Hamza said? That's the perfect answer. The perfect answer is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the believer in this dunya and in the hereafter. We may not understand what the reward of dunya may look like. We may not understand what it is. It doesn't have to be about money. It may be a blessed family. It may be a blessed child. It may be an amazing wife. It may be health. It may be financial. Do you understand? But this ayah, the ulama have said, this is the evidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the believer in the dunya before the akhirah. Now, what's the counterpoint to it? What's the counterpoint to that statement? Did this believer only gets reward in dunya? The disbeliever only gets reward in dunya. So when you look around you, you say, man, look at this guy. He's a killer. He did this, he did that. This guy's a thief. Look at how he's living. That's okay. That's what they get in dunya, and then afterwards in akhirah they get nothing. There's no reward for them in akhirah.
That is the adl of Allah Ta'ala.
That's the adl of Allah. That's the adl of Allah. That's right. So this is the meaning of this verse, and this is also described by the companion Sufyan ibn Uyayna, who actually is one of the scholars of Quran with respect to the description of the hereafter. Okay, so now we're going to move to the next season of Surah Yusuf alayhi salam, which is the return of the brothers. Most ulama say this particular, when the brothers come back to Egypt now, this is 6 years into the second seven, year 12 or year 13 of this drought, right? So you know, the drought is spreading throughout the land. It's not just affecting Egypt, it's affecting the whole region. It's affecting the whole region. So the drought has grown, right? And people are looking for food everywhere, right? People are looking for food everywhere. And Yusuf alayhi salam has instituted a system. So his economic plan was so successful that he has stores and he has extra to give, but he institutes a system where people can come, and if you don't have food, you can come and you can trade your goods and you can take some of the grain. You can come with whatever grain you have, and each, you know, you can think of like each country has its own little code. Oh, you're coming from Palestine, you bring oranges, you come from like, and then there's a system of trade that occurs, right, between the country and between these people, okay, and between the other countries. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ayah number 58, وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُفَ فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. And Yusuf's brothers came and entered his presence. He recognized them, but they were unaware of who he really was. So what was Yusuf alayhi salam doing? What was his job? He was the minister. He has a really important job. Why would he need the brothers? Are these brothers important? They're important. How many people say the brothers are important? Raise your hand. Okay, how many people say the brothers are not important? Raise your hand. The rest are neutral. It could be, they may not be. So why are the brothers important? Yes?
Well, at the beginning he had the dream that they'd be bound to him, right? And that hasn't happened yet, so.
Okay, so he has the dream and he thinks maybe that's gonna happen, right? Okay. What else? Yes.
Question: they are brothers. It's a blood relation. You cannot forsake your blood relations.
Okay, it's a blood relation. Yeah.
Your question is like, why did he meet them, right?
Why did he meet them? Yeah. My question is, why did he meet them?
Yeah, they come to take food.
So Yusuf alayhi salam does not know that he's going to meet the brothers. He is there to judge each individual case to do the justice of the proper distribution.
Okay, to judge the
He doesn't
distribution.
want that position to be exploited by people to do favoritism.
Okay. Okay, so you're getting a little bit closer to the answer. Yes, go ahead. If they were the brothers, the what?
They wouldn't throw him in the well and none of that stuff.
They wouldn't throw him in the well. That's right. They shouldn't have thrown them in the well. Did you have a point?
Reunion with the family.
Reunion with the family, yeah. But my question is slightly
He
different.
wanted to know about his dad.
Oh, he wanted to know about his dad. Okay.
But that was not his plan.
Yeah, I mean,
He never knew that he would meet his brothers.
meeting was unexpected. Like
Meeting was unexpected.
Yeah,
Okay.
not planned meeting.
But my question is a little different. My question is, if you're the CEO of Amazon, I'm the CEO. Let's pretend for a second I'm not the CEO of it. Let's pretend for a second I'm the CEO of it. Someone bought a coffee table that they don't like. They want to return it. Do I have to be involved in that decision? Do I have to even know about this decision?
So,
No. I've got 50,000 people that work for me. You
I
understand?
think what we have to add is like the meeting with the brothers was not incidental. There was a case like these people were complaining about the amount of grain that was given to them, and that was a case that was brought, and he got involved with
Okay.
these people,
Okay.
and then he recognized them, and then he said, then like it was not just this, right? Like he gave them, and then he put something more.
But that's what's going to happen. So we don't know yet. The ayah doesn't say that. The ayah says he met them. وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ, and they didn't recognize him. The reason why the meeting, all these answers are good answers. Like, the reason why he met them in the first place is they're a foreign delegation. They're a foreign delegation. Foreign delegations, when you have a drought and you're giving out food, don't have a priority. You understand? Foreign delegations in the time of drought, I'm not going to give you priority, I'm going to give priority who? To my people. Oh, but there's a foreign delegation, Your Majesty, and it's coming from Palestine. And they say they represent a magnificent family, a huge family. They say they have all these people. There's like 10 brothers and an uncle and this and that. And they say they want a lot of grain. They want a lot of grain because they're representing the whole tribe. They're representing the whole tribe. Oh, I better look into this. You understand? I better look into this. You know what happened recently with Tesla, right? What happened with Tesla? What made their stock pop $100 or $200 or whatever happened? What happened last week with Tesla?
Did he sell all the stock?
No. Before he sold the stock. Yes, he sold some of his stock.
Hertz announced 100,000.
Hertz announced that they're buying all the cars. Do you think Elon Musk was involved in a 100,000 car deal? Of course he was. It's 100,000 cars. It's going to impact the production line. It's going to impact, how many engineers he hires, how many factories he's going to open. It means that all these people that have orders may have to go on hold. That's a big deal. So now they're like, wait a minute, you guys are asking for a lot of grain. We have to go back to the prince. We have to go back to the minister. This is above my authorization. It's above my pay grade. I can't authorize this for you. So now he's involved. You understand? It's like, okay, let me come and meet this. Oh, now he recognizes them. You understand? Okay. Keep this idea because this is going to be very relevant when they come the second time. Because when a king meets a delegation, what happens to that delegation?
They feel special.
They feel special and they become important. They now went from having 5 Instagram followers to 10,000 Instagram followers. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like the king met this delegation. Oh, do you understand? Okay, so this is what's going on now with Yusuf and his brothers. And then ayah number 59. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the following. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the following. And by the way, the Mufassirin say that they record the meeting itself where they say he actually asked them a lot of questions to verify that that's exactly who they are. Where do you come from? Oh, is that the city? Oh, is that the city with the? Oh, and what's your father's name? Oh, what's your mother's name? What's your kid's name? That kind of questioning. So this happens. Right? This is the.
He also asks about their brother.
Yeah, ask him about the brother. This comes next. Yeah, this comes next, right? So then the following ayah, number 59. وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجِهَازِهِمْ قَالَ ائْتُونِي بِأَخٍ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَبِيكُمْ أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنِّي أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنْزِلِينَ. So then he's like, hey, wait a minute. You guys are going to get all this grain. But here, when you're being a class, there's another guy here on your passport. See this guy? Where's this guy? You're telling me where is him? He's missing. I'm giving you all this food and there's a person missing. In the time of rations, it matters. I need to see this person. I need to, if you're entering into a country and you say, trust me, I have a passport, right? Or you go in and you say, hey, stamp this passport for me. This guy's going to show up tomorrow. They don't do that. Like, dude, I need to see the person. I need to have the person to give you your entry visa. You understand? This is the same thing he does with them. He says, I need to see this person to make sure that you guys are telling me the truth about the amount of grain that you're taking. And clearly, when he says, أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنِّي أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنْزِلِينَ. He says to them, he says, listen, you know now me that I'm going to always offer you everything that you have. Like, I'm not holding anything back. I'm not negotiating and going, oh, you deserve 10 kilos, but I'm only giving you 5. No, I'm going to give you the full thing. But he adds a thing at the end. What does he say at the end? What did he do to his brothers? You can tell from this ayah. This is, again, a beautiful description of the Quran. When he says, وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنْزِلِينَ, what does that mean? It means he took them. He's like, where are you guys staying? Are you staying at the Holiday Inn? No, come with me. I want to put you at the Fairmont. And he goes and checks with the hotel manager. Listen, take care of this group. They're a foreign delegation. They're my guests. Put them on the club level on the 11th floor. Make sure they have access to the open buffet. Do you understand? So he honors them. He's generous to them. And of course, they're seeing this and they're shocked. Like they're like, they feel very special by the treatment that they're getting, right? Okay. And then he in ayah number now 60, he says, فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا. And he says, but if you don't bring me your brother, I'm never going to give you any food again. I will now know that you guys are a bunch of liars. You're just coming to ask for extra grain, to take extra more than you need, but if you don't bring me, you're not going to get anything else. And he knows that they're going to need more. He knows they're going to need more, right? By the way, anyone know how long the trip was? So they lived in Palestine, he lived in the city in Egypt called Memphis. It's months. It's months of travel, right? Like 6 months of travel, but they have to have enough to go, to come back, have snacks on the road. It's a lot of back and forth, right? Okay. Now, the following ayah, they say, قالوا, so they say, سنراود عنه أباه وإنا لفاعلون. They promise we will try to convince his father and let him come, we will certainly do our best. Right? So their perspective is, we've done this before. We know how to handle the father. We've done this before with Yusuf alayhi salam. Like we can get the father to have him come in. Right? So now Yusuf alayhi salam says something amazing. وَقَالَ لِفِتْيَانِهِ اجْعَلُوا بِضَاعَةً. Have they left Egypt yet? Have they left the country? They have not left the country. They're about to leave. They're packing up the caravan. They're making sure they're locking up the trunk, they're putting gas in the car. This is what's going on. This is the scene, right? So Yusuf says to his workers, اجعلوا بضاعتهم في رحالهم لعلهم يعرفونها إذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم لعلهم يرجعون. So then Yusuf does something amazing. What does he do here?
He returns all the whatever things they bought to export.
He returns whatever things they brought. So not only do they have the grain, but they effectively got it for free. Okay. Is there a problem with this? People may think it's favoritism. People, you know how people talk about corruption in politics, like corruption? Well, because you run the country, it doesn't mean you can give away this land for 50 cents when it's worth $2. Do you understand? So how do we understand that? How can he give them back their belong when the rule said that they have to trade?
No, he wanted to ensure that they return back with this.
Okay, so that's a great answer. He wanted to ensure that they return back because were they rich or poor?
They're poor. No?
They're poor, so they don't have a lot of stuff to trade in the first place. Okay, so that's one. The other one I'll just give you very easy because it's always the correct answer. It's wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it could be wahi from Allah. But what's the third one? With respect to this notion of trust and favoritism that this brother was saying. The king authorized him. The king gave him full, he's like, listen, run it how you want. Remember what he said, the king of Amin? He said, run it how you want. I trust that you're going to do the right thing. Makinun Amin, like even if you give this one extra, it's going to get made up from the next delegation that's coming from Libya or coming from Sudan. Like, do you understand? But you are Makin and Amin. It's within your authority to treat this. What's the fourth explanation? So far I went through. What's the fourth explanation? No, didn't need what they brought. Okay, could be, but he's not thinking for himself, right? He's thinking for the country. What's the fourth explanation? He did what? What did Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab do when he was the Khalifa? And he went.
He would do his labor, and then from that money he would earn, and then do the job.
Yeah, he would pay for it from his own money. He would pay for it from his own money, right? So we know the example said, do you remember, does anyone know Salahuddin al-Ayyubi? Salahuddin? Heard about Salahuddin? How did he get his reputation? So he had an amazing reputation with the Crusades, that he was a fantastic military strategist. We understand, he was the liberator of Beit al-Maqdis. How did he get his reputation? Because they knew him not just as an amazing military general and strategist, but they knew him as a genuinely kind, honorable person. Even today in the West, when they write books about him, if they're being fair, they'll say this guy was different. All the rest are kuffar, but this guy's different. What was the thing that made him special in their eyes after the liberation of Beit al-Maqdis? Who knows? Who knows a little bit about that history? What did he do that was special?
He did not kill when he got control of Jerusalem, he did not kill the Christians.
Okay, so he did not kill the Christians is a really good one.
He also allowed them to have their places of worship with whatever.
MashaAllah. He actually took the example of Sayyidina Umar when Sayyidina Umar iterated it, but he did one extra thing, which is the following. So he said he wants to stay, can stay. Who wants to go should go. Your masajid and your kanais are still going to be open. But what's the fourth thing he did? If you want to leave and you can't afford it, oh, you're French, you want to go back to France, oh, you're Italian, you want to go back to Italy, or you don't have the money, I will pay for it from my own wealth. So he even those that could not go, he liberated out of his own wealth, right? His own personal property, right? So this is the fourth explanation, that Yusuf actually returned it from his own wealth. So the next scene now is they make the journey, they go back to Palestine. فلما رجعوا إلى أبيهم قالوا يا أبانا منع منا الكيل فأرسل معنا أخانا نكتل وإنا له لحافظون. So literally they are so impacted by this experience that they had in Egypt that when they go home, normally if you're going home from a long trip, where would you go first? To your house. They go to the father's house. They go to the father's house because they want to convince him so badly now to take who? Binyamin, the younger brother. And they're so excited about what they've seen. They said, we just came back from Egypt and you won't believe this. We met the prince himself. We met this very generous minister. He put us up in the Fairmont. He paid for everything. He did this, he did this, he did that. He gave us all the grain that we wanted. But he says he's not going to give us, but this grain that we have is enough for some period of time. 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. What he said the next time, he trusted us that we have a brother, but next time we have to bring him or he's not going to give us anything. We're going to go hungry if our brother doesn't come with us. You understand? And the evidence is that the following, let's keep going. قال هل أمنكم عليه إلا كما أمنتكم على أخيه من قبل فالله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. So Yaqub alayhi salam responds and he says, should I trust you with him as I once trusted you with his brother Yusuf? But only Allah is the best protector and He is the most merciful of the merciful. What do we learn that's important about this statement of Yaqub alayhi salam? Should I trust you with him in the way that I trusted you with his brother before? What do we learn about this? Reputation is important. And they had wrecked the reputation with their father. They had wrecked the reputation with their father. This is not just a lesson for our children, it's a lesson for us generally in society, right? If we work at a company, we should have a good reputation, not just being competent in our jobs, or how we treat people, and how we speak to people, and how we manage people, and how, fairness with respect to promotions, because eventually they get to know that we're Muslim. Eventually they get to know. So our actions reflect on our own reputation. And where is the reputation even more important than dunya? In akhirah. The reputation is even more important than akhirah, right? Now the other thing, the Prophet ﷺ has a hadith here where he says the believer is not, fill in the blank, twice from the same hole. The believer is not falling. La yuldag. Yuldag in Arabic means stung. He's not stung in the same way twice by the same thing. He doesn't fall in the same trap twice. And this is what Yaqub alayhi salam is doing. He's like, hey, remember a long time ago? You guys bit me then, I'm not going to get bit again. Do you understand? And this is what Yaqub alayhi salam said. Now the other thing, Yaqub alayhi salam speaks to Allah about فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا. And He is the most merciful, and He is the best protector. And He is the most merciful of the merciful. What does that mean to us? What does it mean? The Prophet ﷺ says, when you leave your homes in the morning, what should you say? As an example. Bismillah tawakkaltu ala Allah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And the Prophet ﷺ says, you are protected. You want insurance? Don't worry about State Farm, worry about the adhkar of Allah. Right? When we go back to sleep at night, what does the Prophet ﷺ tell us to do? Sleep at night, going in my bed. You can read Ayatul Kursi, right? We can read Surah Tabarak, lots of different adhkar that we can make. What does the Prophet ﷺ say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala posts a guard, an angel, while you sleep as protection, right? But Yaqub alayhi salam ultimately says at the end, the ultimate protector is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do what we can, the ultimate protector is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We may go on a Hajj trip and have the money and have the wealth and have this and have that, and then at the end, the airplane doesn't take off. Like, you know, how many people do we know, like, subhanAllah, talking to brothers in Indonesia, years in the planning. All this stuff happens, everything is ready, they have the ticket, they have the visa, they have the passport, the airplane doesn't go. This is from the Qadr of Allah, right? So he reminds them at the end of Allah is the best of protectors. The following ayah, وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مَا نَبْغِي. So they find all their provisions have been given back to them. Oh, they can go back and they open up the camera like, wait a minute, everything that we took has actually been given back. هَذِهِ بِضَاعَتُنَا رُدَّتْ إِلَيْنَا. Look, this is proof that what we're telling you is the truth. We came with all this grain, and even the stuff that we took, the carpets or the oranges or the olives or whatever they had, has been given back to us. This is proof that this guy is serious. This guy is generous. وَنَمِيرُ أَهْلَنَا. What is namiru? Namiru. Arabic speakers, what is namiru? Huh? Provisions, to feed. Provisions to feed. Namiru means to feed. Feed our families. وَنَمِيرُ أَهْلَنَا. To make sure that they have enough food. وَنَحْفَظُ أَخَانَا. And protect our brother. وَنَزْدَادُ كَيْلُ بَعِيرٍ. What does that mean? And we'll have an extra camel's worth of grain. There, and then at the very end, they say, what does that mean? You don't even have to work for it, oh Father. We just have to have him show up. Oh, like a camel's worth of grain is a big deal. It's a big deal. He just has to show up. That's all we have to do, right? Okay. There's a fiqh benefit in this ayah. There's actually a fiqh benefit in this ayah that the ulama have derived. Here's what it is. So at a high level in Islam, when we come to trade, the ulama actually use this particular ayah for this example. When we come, I'm selling the cell phone and you're buying it from me. How is that supposed to occur? Formally, how it's supposed to occur is to say, I am selling you the cell phone for $100. And you say, I accept buying this cell phone for $100. And then you pay me the money and the cell phone is yours. You understand? That's how it's meant to be conducted from a fiqh perspective. What's another variation of this? Exactly the same, except it is written down. Written down, right? But what did Yusuf do? He took their bid'ah and he gave it back and he gave them a little bit extra. The fuqaha have concluded from this that the intention between the buyer and the seller, if it's understood and accepted between the both of them, it is halal. Meaning, I am selling you a kilo of grain for $20. I decide to give you 1.1 kilos or 1.2 kilos. That's from my generosity to you, and it's understood I'm not asking for extra money. I'm not trying to get you stuck. I'm not trying to force you into an unnatural situation. I'm giving you extra. You know, like in Egypt, sometimes you go and I don't even know if they do this anymore. I'm like, you used to go and buy something and they'll give the kids like a couple of candies. You know, on top of it, right? A couple of it's understood that I'm not looking for more money. This is just extra, right? So this is halal. When someone wants to exceed what they're meant to do or what they're supposed to give in Islam, this is considered halal. By the way, this fuqaha also use this ayah for another guiding principle of buying and selling, which is what? If I'm selling you something, if I sell you this thing, and I say this thing cannot be returned, and you buy it understanding and accepting that it cannot be returned, it's 100% halal. 100% halal. We get used to the US that I can return everything. Anytime, like take a TV from Costco, use it for 6 months, give it back. So, this is in Islam. If they sell something and they say no warranty, you can't return it, and I buy it knowing it's a halal transaction. There's no fault on the seller, right? That actually do that, right? So, Yaqub alayhi salam, by the way, if we're getting tired, let me know, guys. Like, you guys look like you're going to start to fall asleep. So, you guys want to wrap up? Continue next time? Continue next time, inshallah? Yeah? Okay. So, next week I won't be here. I'm traveling to visit my brother in California, so inshallah I'll be the following Sunday, inshallah. Let's go ahead and make it hard. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وانت خير الراحمين. ربنا ظلمنا انفسنا وان لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا ويمن كتابنا ويسر حسابنا واختم لنا بالباقيات الصالحات أعمالنا. اللهم نسألك الدرجات العلى من الجنة، اللهم متعنا بالفردوس الأعلى من الجنة، اللهم متعنا بنظر إلى وجهك الكريم. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. I'll see you guys next 2 weeks.